Get started in a few minutes or a minute while people still log in. Right. Marwa, can you go to the next slide? Or Alex? There you go. So if you can add your name to the chat and stay muted in order to minimize the background noise, we'd greatly appreciate it. And at the end of Thomas's presentation, there will be an opportunity for Q&A. And I know Karen will pop the questions in the link. Next slide, please. The QR code to sign in is also available. Next slide. We just have a few quick updates to review with you all before we turn it over to Healthy Campus. Next slide. The Certified Wellness Coach item has been added to the fee schedule. These are not finalized just yet, but these are the rates of reimbursement. So if you have any teachers that are engaging in any type of STL services with students and they are interested in submitting claims to the fee schedule, I want to highly encourage you guys to go onto the HCI website, which is also in our live binder, and they can submit, I think, transcripts, obtain an MPI number, and then they will be certified wellness coaches. There's a process, but we can give you more details about that if you're interested. Okay, next slide. So the progress report is still due July 31st. SCOE is asking that you submit like a preliminary report using that tracking tool we provided before the July 31st deadline. They want us to approve your progress report before you submit it through Qualtrics. This is to avoid errors and having to request another link to resubmit. Your point of contact, you guys, I hope, know who that point of contact is. Alex, Karen, and Marwa have been reaching out to all of you to provide you with any type of technical assistance and support and just answer questions that have come up for you all. Next slide. We just want to also inform you that your 50% disbursement and your 40% disbursement has gone out to the LEAs. If you have not received them, please reach out to your point of contact. We want to make sure that everyone is receiving their funds so that they can carry out this mission. Next slide. One back, Alex. There you go. So cohort 5 application for the fee schedule is open. This time frame will be longer than most. It will be open until July 31st. There is a DHCS has a SurveyMonkey link that you need to complete in order to submit your application. We have also provided that link in previous meetings. If you want assistance, please reach out so we can help you complete your application so that you can be in cohort 5. Next slide, please. And this is a QR code for the EHR Q&A that you may have for Thomas. And I think that is it. So I will be turning it over to Thomas Schaefer from Healthy Campus.
Great. Thank you, Veronica. And thank you all for being here today. It's nice to meet you if we haven't met already. My name is Thomas Schaefer. I'm the president of Healthy Campus, and joining me on the call are several of my team members, Lindsay Yang, Emily Casey, I see Chris Karasi. There may be one or two more here. So we are a Southern California-based comprehensive service provider. We work with local educational agencies across the state to facilitate the implementation of the CYBHI fee schedule. So I'm going to share my screen and jump into a deck. I also received a number of questions in advance, and the deck should cover a lot of those questions, but I'll also specifically go through the questions and make sure we address them. And then after, a more comprehensive Q&A document will be uploaded to the folder, as was mentioned. In addition to that, I'll share some of the platform with you so you can see a demonstration of some of the features and functionality. Obviously, today is not a training session, so overview is designed to give you a general look and feel for it. But training, as we'll explain in here, will be given on a site-by-site, district-by-district basis. We'll provide both on-site, in-person trainings, as well as on-demand and virtual opportunities so that everyone can get really deep into the system. So don't worry if you don't know exactly how to use our system after this call. That's not the purpose of the call today. But I'll go ahead and share my screen. And then let's see here. Okay. And then can everyone see my screen? Sometimes when I'm sharing it shows some gray boxes, but hopefully you can all see it. Okay. So first and foremost, I wanted to talk about these are some of the items that we'll cover, but first and foremost, before we jump into that, I did want to discuss very quickly data security and privacy. As we get into this CYBHI multi-payer fee schedule, and we begin collecting health insurance information from all of our families, we begin providing services to those students across the general education population, counselors and clinicians and so forth, may be discussing things that are sensitive in nature and maybe documenting some of those things within the electronic health record system that we provide. You've all worked in your school districts to cultivate trust over several decades. That trust can be lost in minutes in the event of data security breaches and confidentiality breaches and so forth. And so at the foundation of everything that we do is data security and privacy. And we've implemented data security standards and controls within our architecture that are significantly more robust than what would generally be found within the educational context. These systems in this standard is generally applied for federal and critical systems. It's one that has continuous monitoring and threat detection with very strong end-to-end encryption and access controls, role provisioning, and so forth, real-time logs and notifications and all kinds of things that are at the heart and foundation of the system. And the reason we always start with security and the reason we've gone kind of above and beyond in terms of extreme security and data privacy is because as you've cultivated that trust with your community for decades, the success of the program will largely depend on keeping that trust that the families will continue to participate, that they'll provide their health insurance information and so forth. And so we want to do everything possible to put a big green check mark next to that box of data security so that you can go forward with confidence telling your families that this is a system that you can rely on and you know why. So it's also a very, very big differentiator of ours is that level of data security and privacy. And so our platform in a few different ways and our services in a few different ways differentiates, but that's probably one of the biggest ones is that we're proud to be the most secure platform in the space. We also have, as an organization, comprehensive support and educational alignment. We know that you all are very busy. You wear a lot of different hats, and so do your staff and personnel. That everyone has a lot on their plate. And the phrase, one more thing comes to mind as we think of new programs and new opportunities, as good and as well-intentioned as those can be. We understand that that the programs itself have to come with a level of comprehensive support. And so our team is designed to support you, your personnel, your teams in operationalizing this, that we're not just a platform, a software platform, but we're a group of people that are here locally with you on your school sites, working alongside of you to make sure that you're successful. And I'll explain more about that as well. But comprehensive alignment, educational alignment specifically also means integrating into your school system, such as a student information system, in a secure and compliant way so we can deduplicate data entry, streamline and facilitate the collection of information. And then thirdly is a proven return on investment. We've been managing school-based claims for quite some time, not just in the Medi-Cal space. We've submitted about 2.5 million Medi-Cal claims, but we've also submitted over 10 million to all commercial payers. And that's very important as we get into the multi-payer fee schedule, because although the claims go through one centralized third-party administrator, they go to dozens of individual insurance payers. And managing those dynamics and audit resilience built into the system, knowing the individual temperaments and regulations and policy guidance that they rely on as unique payers, and having a history of managing commercial insurance dynamics is something that we come to the table with. So we've submitted over 12 million total claims. We work with over 200 California school districts and county offices, LEAs and county offices. We currently bill all insurance companies. So a lot of experience and feedback, and people say nice things about us here if you want to read that. So what is the fee schedule? I know many of you know already what this is, but I just wanted to break it down very simply at the beginning, and then we'll get into some of the details. So what is a fee schedule? Essentially, it's a billing model for schools and LEAs that requires by state statute, by mandate, insurance companies to reimburse districts for one of or any number of 52 services provided on the fee schedule. It says there will be no cost sharing, co-payments, co-insurance, or deductibles to families whatsoever, and that these insurance companies pay this to the schools for rendering these services, and the money itself goes into the general fund. So it's without stipulation in terms of how it's spent. So the fee schedule, if you look at the fee schedule, and I'm going to share what it actually looks like here, is very simply a document of services, codes, eligible practitioners, and so forth. Some of the interesting developments on this are Code 2014, for example, which recently had the removal of the group size limit, which is a skills and training development. And a school counselor, for example, going into a classroom of 30 students could give a 15-minute presentation to all of the class, and $8 would be required by the insurance company for each and every student to be reimbursed for every 15 minutes. And so as an example, a 30-minute school counselor presentation in a classroom setting would yield $480 that would go into the school's general fund for that specific code. And so that's a psychoeducation service, very much aligned with MTSS 1, something that's probably already being done. There's various services that align with that as we think about workshopping that back. But that's the flavor of this fee schedule, is many of these things are things that you're already doing or that your people are already doing, and it outlines how much needs to be reimbursed for doing those things. So as we continue here, I know everyone knows why this is so critically important right now, but with budget deficits, and the state just gave guidance that they're forecasting a $12 billion budget deficit this year, and cuts and things are coming. The positive news is that in that recent conversation that happened this week, the fee schedule is not on the chopping block. And so this by state statute is something that can address some of the constraints and some of the economic headwinds that we all face and that we're concerned about in education right now. We do have some concern about the number of individuals that will be eligible for Medi-Cal based on state guidance, but that doesn't impact the requirement for those covered under insurance to be reimbursed for these services. So it's a very important time and it has a lot of momentum. And so thinking carefully about how you implement this and the level of support and the systems that you use to do it is very important, because I believe this will make all the difference in the coming years for the sustainability of these student services, which student services underscore and strongly drive academic outcomes, which is why we're all here. So to identify kind of the structural component of the fee schedule, and there was a question about this, who is Carelon? Who is this Carelon Behavioral Health TPA? So the state appointed a third-party administrator, Carelon Behavioral Health. They have three very specific responsibilities at the state level, which are essentially to assign a Carelon Behavioral Health ID to your practitioners, to take the claims once they get to the state level and to get them to the right insurance company. And then they have a portal that receives certain files that give the Carelon Behavioral Health ID to the practitioners and to the students, and they manage that portal. So what do they not do? Essentially, within this fee schedule dynamic, they don't do anything at the local level that will help you operationalize this. And so all of their functions, that's the state TPA, are at the state level. And so why do we need a healthy campus, or why do we need a company at the local level? There's a lot they don't do, including the enrollment and credentialing, the SPI file, and the maintenance of the certifications and licensure of the individual practitioners. So eligibility of practitioners, related to service delivery and capacity building, closed loop referral pathway management, customer service as you open up to the general ed population and receive phone calls and so forth from families, managing that, collecting insurance information and verifying eligibility prior to claim submission, charting the encounters and assigning service codes and ICD codes where applicable, consent management, ensuring that you're not rendering a billable service without consent, including minor consent where applicable with AB 665, minors 12 plus that are of a mature age can self-consent, regulatory compliance, HIPAA versus FERPA, billing, obviously, claims and clawbacks and audits, and then data analytics, how do our programs impact academic outcomes? So because they don't do these things, there's this operational gap at the local level. And so the question to solve for really is, how do we operationalize, how do we fill the operational gap? And currently, and I'll show a little bit about the number of claims that have been submitted so far and what that looks like, but in January 2024, when Cohort 1 launched, there were 46 LEAs that by invite only were brought into the fee schedule. Of those 46 LEAs, most of them at that time said a billing provider would be all they really need. So a lot of them thought about their Medi-Cal billing provider and said, we have a Medi-Cal billing provider, so that's enough, right? Well, a year later, just about none of them had submitted a claim yet with just a billing provider. And to date, only 13 of them, of the 46, have submitted a claim, because a billing provider for the fee schedule, a Medi-Cal billing provider or just a billing provider, isn't sufficient to address the complexity of the implementation of the fee schedule. Essentially, it's multi-payer dynamic, and the regulatory implications of it require a lot more. And so when Cohort 2 came around, everyone thought, okay, let's get a billing provider and let's get an electronic health record system so we can document and then submit claims. And 93 Cohort 2 applications were approved under kind of that idea of EHR plus billing and claims. Only one of them so far, a year later now, has submitted a claim. And so really what's needed is quite a bit more in terms of complexity and systems. When you think about a hospital, you think about a clinic, You think about more complexity and more sophistication in systems than just charting and billing. So patient portals, how do we provision access to the patient portal? How do we collect insurance and information and verify it? How do we schedule appointments and manage referrals in a closed loop? How do we chart and how do we document how do we see in a data dashboard how these services are being provided? What percentages of our families have insurance, consent, those kinds of things? How do we handle customer service? So if you're to go out and buy 7 or 8 different systems then and hand that over to your poor IT departments that would have to manage and integrate those systems, you end up with a mess. Trying to integrate everything together and then asking staff to learn all of these things and to manage all of it, you increase the administrative overhead, you have difficulty with integration, and you end up with a lot of complexity. And the juice really isn't worth the squeeze. And so what we provide, and by through this contract with San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, this platform is provided to you all at no cost. The implementation of this whole platform is at no cost by virtue of this contract with the county. It's one cohesive ecosystem that has all the tools that you need in one place in a very secure and controlled environment that has your patient portals, scheduling and care coordination, charting, billing and claims, data dashboards, and then it ties into your different student information systems. And we know that across the county, there are a variety of different student information systems. We're not limited to just these 4. We've done many others, but these student information system integrations are critically important in terms of bringing the student information into the system, not having to duplicate entry to create accounts, not having to bring insurance information from the various sources into the system manually and typing things in, and then ensuring that we're not creating duplicate profiles, duplicate claims, all kinds of things. And then also ensuring that we get the guardian, the caretaker relational data from the FERPA student record so that we're ensuring we provision access properly and in accordance with regulations. So this piece critically important. So one cohesive ecosystem with integrations into your existing frameworks that simplifies and streamlines the operationalization of the fee schedule. So, and then we pair that platform with our people, with our back end and on-site administrative support services to essentially not provide the services to students, but to provide to you and to your practitioners training and operational support and billing and claim cycle management and system integration and configuration and customization to provide regulatory guidance and audit support and to provide marketing materials and so forth so that you have support for your coffee with the counselor and principal events and banners and flyers and videos and all those kinds of things. And I'll share a little bit about that in a minute, but we pair platform with people, platform to simplify the implementation and streamline the way that it's done to secure the data in a compliant way, and then people to ensure reduced administrative burden. So it's not one more thing to do for everybody, and that you don't just get a shiny object of a platform that collects dust on the shelf, that you actually use it. And I do see some questions coming in, so I'm going to actually stop sharing because I can't see it at the same time. I'm just going to make sure if we've had any. Okay, nope, just people checking in. So, oh, there is one. Okay. How often do the SIS systems sync with Healthy Campus? In some cases, it's real time. So if we have API integration like Aries and so forth, it's real time. In other situations, we automate and it works at the least every single night. So the least frequently would be every night. The most frequently would be real time. And then it's the sync is actually pulling all the student information and relational data into the system. And so that's the information that's pulled in. And it's not bidirectional for security purposes. So great questions. Okay. I'm going to keep sharing my screen here. And then I'll stop sharing if I see more questions because I can't see both at the same time for whatever reason. So, okay. So that essentially then is how we fill that operational gap. We connect to Carelon Behavioral Health so that we can access the claims and send the claims data off and manage those. And I'll show how we do that in just a second. But then we provide you here at the local level with all of that support in that system to make sure that you get this off the ground in an efficient way. Quick state update. So to give you a lay of the land on where we're at now with the CYBHI fee schedule. So as of last week, 5/7/2025, $117,000 worth of claims. It was somewhere right in the neighborhood of 1,000 claims had been submitted. 117,000 claims, 22,000 of them had been paid out. Most of this is just that they haven't had the amount of time to be paid yet. 15 LEAs have submitted. That includes, I believe, 13 or 14 cohort ones, one cohort two, and those went to 17 different health plans. So when we think about the whole state, that's not very much, very, very, very little. Um, and so this is really just beginning and it's just getting going. And so one of the questions that came in through the Q&A was how fast can we get started? And so I wanted to talk about that, but I wanted to mention one thing that we just did last week, and I wanted to spotlight a district in another county, Monterey Peninsula Unified, who is the first cohort 3 to submit a claim, works with us. And they are an example of the answer to that question, how fast can we get started? And so what I wanted to say about the how fast can we get this off the ground and get started is that really it depends on you and your school district. And so I wanted to outline maybe 9 or so questions to think about in terms of getting started and where you're at in terms of being ready. But Monterey Peninsula checks the box on all of these questions. They were very aggressive in providing their SIS information to us so we could connect. We got their configuration requirements and we completed them. They were able to get their SPI file approved and their member files approved. And then just last week, we submitted 400 claims for Monterey Peninsula, which represents 30% of the all-time California value in just 1 week. And that was 2 weeks worth of claims that we submitted, and we'll be submitting every 2 weeks with them. So they already have 30% of all of the claims in California. But the questions in terms of how quickly can we launch that I would ask is, are you attending the state meetings? Have you registered for a cohort and are you attending the state meetings every week? Have you completed the learning modules? Do you know who your Carillon Behavioral Health rep is and are you meeting with them regularly? Have you completed your PPA, DUA, Provider Connect application and is your portal live? Have you completed and submitted an SPI and member batch file? Have you communicated with your staff and your school counselors already about what the fee schedule is at a very high level and prepared them for that it's coming? Have you begun to communicate with your school board and community about the fee schedule and insurance collection requirements? Have you began collecting insurance and consent? Are the fields in your SIS? And is the enrollment for enrollment and data confirmation process set up? And are you currently documenting all eligible encounters now, or what would that look like? So thinking about those things in terms of have you started to lay the groundwork to be ready for this? And if the answer is no to all of them, that's okay. We're here as a partner to help support you and answer those questions, to meet with you and understand how we can get those things going. But if you're doing all those things, you can activate very quickly and you can start submitting claims. If you're not doing those things, then we should think about how our people on site can come through and start to support you, to meet with you and your staff and to get your documentation done, to provide you with communication materials that you can send out to your families and school staff so that they can start thinking about this, so that you can show your workflows in your forms so we can configure those, so we can get your SIS information and connect that and get you ready for a good launch. With that said, I did want to share, I spoke a little bit about some of the marketing materials that we can provide. And I wanted to share one quick video that we produced. And we'll be as a partner sharing videos and email templates and all kinds of things that you can use to share with your families what this is all about. But all this goes into laying the groundwork for preparing so that your families and your communities are ready to launch once this gets off the ground. So with that said, I'll share this video here.
For many years, schools have been a safe place where students receive mental health support, helping them focus more, feel secure, and thrive academically and socially. But today, those vital services remain at risk. Lacking reliable funding, many schools might battle to keep providing the aid and support our students need. That is why the state of California launched the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, or CYBHI. It's a statewide effort to strengthen and sustain school-based mental health care, making it faster, more effective, and more accessible for every student. To keep this care going and ensure its long-term sustainability, schools are asking families to share basic insurance information. This allows schools to receive funding directly from insurance providers so services can continue without interruption and without any cost to families. There are no copays, no deductibles, and no out-of-pocket expenses whatsoever. And if your family doesn't have insurance, you may qualify for free or low-cost coverage through Medi-Cal. Your district and schools can help you apply and get started. Your privacy is our highest priority. Schools do not collect broad medical history, only basic insurance details, and all information is encrypted, stored securely, and used only to support student services. By activating your Healthy Campus portal, you're unlocking access to personalized care and real-time support that helps your child stay emotionally well, academically focused, and fully supported at school. Together, we are now building healthier schools, stronger students, and a brighter future for all.
Okay, so with that said, we have that in Spanish as well, so Spanish and English, and we'll provide that in the resources folder so everyone can start sending that out to your families and communicating. But again, that goes back to ensuring that we lay the groundwork for preparing you to make sure when you are off to the races that you're submitting claims in a way that your community is in the know, that your practitioners are in the know, that everyone's ready, and that we've done the groundwork necessary for it. So those are in the chat there. So, and yes, so a question came in about site and the student data privacy agreements. That's also one of the things that we do work with site, and we put a student data privacy agreement in place before we do any of that. We have currently 2 districts within San Bernardino County that have been very quick and kind of chomping at the bit to get this in place and send us back their student data privacy agreements. And we've already scheduled training and so forth for them at the very beginning of the school year. So they're doing a really good job. But we'd love to be able to support all of you in this effort and get you going as fast as you're ready to. So with that said, I'm going to share a couple more things here so that you can get a general idea of some of the supports that we provide and some of the things within our platform as well. So um, let me go ahead and share my screen one more time. If I see any other questions, I'll try to address those too. Nope. Okay, great.
Thomas, if you want to take a time out for questions, we have 9 questions in it that came in through the Google form. What do you want to do?
Yeah, let's do it.
I have no idea what happened to me. I'm sorry, I disappeared.
Yeah, I can't find, I don't see it. Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, Marwa, you'll read the questions?
Yeah, so our first question is, does the data connection between Healthy Campus and a LEA's SIS, for example, Aries, have the option to push data into the SIS and not just pull data?
No, we're not bi-directional, and that's by design. Because it presents a breach risk into the system, and it compromises the standard. However, I know why that question is being asked, because counselors will put in their logs to document services within Aries. Now, those logs need to contain usually a very, very vague descriptor of the type of service rendered and the date. And so what we recommend for that, we have 2 things within our platform that are available to help with that. The first is specifically with Aries, we can create a button in your Aries system that they can click and open up the student profile within our system right from there, as long as they have permission. So it's 1 click and then they see the student profile there. Second thing is they can click another button and it copies a log entry descriptor that they can paste into Aries. So it's actually 2 extra clicks. I know we want to not do more work, but For 2 extra clicks, they can create a reimbursable service in a compliant and secure way. Just to punctuate that a little bit is that PowerSchool had the largest breach in the history of education this year, and it was really bad. And I know some of you probably were affected. It was many millions of records. We just absolutely don't want to have anything like that. And so if we do bidirectional, we're exposing ourselves to the protocols of the SIS system where we don't have control over that. So if we do one directional, we can control access, but we can't do it too. But that's kind of our workaround. So great question.
Okay, the next question is, can a school begin with Healthy Campus alone, or do we have to go along with it with the school district?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I would assume, well, do you want to answer that as BCSS? I don't want to. Yeah, I have my opinion about it. I would say largely if the school's in a district, they would go with the district because that's the LEA and the NPI number and all that kind of stuff. But SBCSS, do you have an opinion on that?
I don't know. Whoever answered the question, maybe we can have a sidebar discussion so that we can get more context.
Yeah, that's probably a better answer.
Okay.
Okay, the next question we have is, how does Healthy Campus coordinate and interact with other vendors contracted with an LEA that handles the LEA BOP billing and ESMA?
That is a great question. So very collaboratively. And here's the reality of it. So Healthy Campus as a platform can take on your Medi-Cal billing work. So thinking about LEA BOP, you have a system, you have a process, and you have a vendor in place right now. You're working with that vendor. Things are going great, I hope. They probably are. And you have practitioners, PPS school psychs that are doing their assessments, they're documenting them, you're sending off claims, you're billing. What we don't want to do is have Healthy Campus come in with our elbows out and saying, let's do everything at once and let's disrupt this process and let's replace this system and all those kinds of things right out of the gates. That's the last thing we want to do. What we do want to do is we want to launch the fee schedule, which is this brand new, big, intimidating thing with some success, without a lot of friction, without a lot of big changes, without a lot of uprooting process, and on a limited scale too. A lot of bigger districts with just a smaller cohort of practitioners initially and then grow to the others. So in doing that, we want to work alongside and collaboratively with your LEA BOP biller. We don't want to kick them out the door by any means, and we don't want to uproot the process. So we want to keep things going that are working, and we want to grow trust and confidence and successes on the fee schedule. And then if it makes sense for you, so that's phase 1, phase 2, if it makes sense for you to do everything on our platform, hey, we would love to do that, but we're not here to try to disrupt that process right out of the gates, cause extra confusion, cause, headaches or learning new things right out of the gates when we're already taking on one big initiative. So priority is launch the fee schedule, gain trust, gain confidence, get some wins, work collaboratively. So what we do in our system, when they document, they select whether or not it's an IEP related claim right out of the gate. So we know if we're not going to bill this through the BOP biller, the BOP biller bills it, and then we work alongside through that process. So very collaboratively, happy to do both, but we want to do it responsibly in phases.
Okay. The next question we have is, does Healthy Campus have a native ability to make referrals from an LEA to an outside community-based provider when and if needed?
We do, and we have the ability to do closed loop referrals. And so rather than just sending off, we can do full integration. Obviously, this is governed by releases of information that have to be signed by the individual that would be sharing that information back. So we have a consent management tool that's built into the system that governs the releases of that information back within the closed loop context, but we absolutely do. We call it Community Connect. The other thing that's really interesting about that Community Connect feature is many of you have community schools, and you're not just making referrals for clinical services. You're making referrals for housing and food insecurity and all sorts of things that are related to social determinants of health. So ECM and community supports. And this feature is new for a lot of you. You maybe have never even heard of this, but it's something that's coming. And so thinking about not just current state, but future state, sustainability of community school programs, sustainability of these referrals that you're making and the care coordination and case management that you're doing. Just knowing that our platform does ECM and is ready for that. We're part of the Path Cited round of grants, and we've built into that with other LEAs that have that interest. Knowing that that's available not just for your clinical referrals, but knowing that it's available for your community liaisons and so forth, the care management and case management features is something that can bring additional revenues in and can look at the whole picture of that child. So we think about whole child, whole family, whole community, knowing that that is very important. The other thing is coordinating effectively with your MCPs. And so making sure that you have a platform that can tie into the MCP where applicable, and back into the medical home. So we'd love to be collaborative with all of those CBOs and plans and community support. So yeah.
All right, last question we have in the form. Does the EHR part of the system have formats for specific documentations that meet the DHCS QM requirements?
Yeah, so designing the system around regulatory compliance and audit resilience is at the heart of it. And the fee schedule, the latest program manual that just came out, still says the word draft on it. So it's an ever-changing environment. The requirements are ever-changing, the guidance is ever-changing. So having a system that real time can make those updates and those changes to keep you in compliance with the documentation requirements, the ORP, not to open a can of worms or anything, it's not that big of a deal. The ORP requirements, the licensure, the scope of practice that they're qualified for, services, the service codes, the modifiers, all of those things are managed in real time in our system with integrations, and configurable also to the unique workflows at the district level. So for example, we have this phrase internally that if you've seen one district, you've seen one district. I have yet to see a statewide universal way of managing encounters for school counselors. It's just so different in the way they document and what they do and all kinds of things. And so within our system, you can configure workflows, templates, wizards, and then you can attach those to the codes that are relevant for the fee schedule. And then by attaching those codes, it will only show those services to certain practitioners that are qualified to deliver those services. And they won't have to remember the service codes and all those kinds of things when they select them. So a lot of configuration, but that keeps you in compliance. Make sure that when you're audited, which everyone will be on this call at some point probably, that you're ready and that you're in a good position. You're defensible, that you've documented things. So yeah, good question. Any others come in?
No, we're good.
Okay, great. So I'd love to share a couple of things with you all. Let's see. Oh, I did want to say something in terms of, I know I maybe was, I gave a lot of information about like what we should be thinking about in terms of, are you ready to launch? Like I gave 9 things to think about. But that said, we can launch quickly with some things. One of those things that I would encourage everyone to launch quickly with is communicating to your families about what this is, what's coming, why we're collecting insurance, what it means, getting the word out. That should happen before the end of the year if you haven't already. Send out videos, send out marketing stuff. We'll give you templates if you want it. We'll link our emails and such in the chat here, but please contact us and we'll share that right away. Second thing is begin collecting health insurance information. We can stand up your link right away. Right away. So we can stand this up right now. And if you don't have the fields in your student information system, or you don't know how to configure that, we can help you with that too. Or we can also just set up your link. And this is an example of a link. So this is for Colton Joint. And it's just a really fast, easy way to, it shows the logos, it explains what it's about. And then it's a really fast, easy way for a parent or whomever to go in and say whether or not they have insurance. And then this is an example, but you can have whatever consent you want them to agree to, and it's in Spanish and English. We can add other languages too. And to start capturing insurance and consent this year before you go on summer break, so that you're in a much better ready position when school kicks off next year and they can download the form and it's ready to go. So we can do that right away for all of you. And we would love to give that as a resource for you so you can start collecting. So that's that piece. And then the other, oh, I had one thing to say about certified wellness coaches. Let me actually jump back here. So certified wellness coaches, I would recommend for those of you who have interns, because a lot of you have kind of intern or REM programs and those kinds of things. And I'm talking about those that are not associate level clinicians, but trainees. And you're thinking about how do we support them? Some might have been federally grant funded and you lost a grant. Some, you may not have a mechanism. You can't reimburse for an intern on the fee schedule, but they can get their certified wellness coach. And they can then deliver these initial assessments and these face-to-face follow-up sessions. And these bring in, 132, 82 to $132 an hour, which for an intern and a certified wellness coach can help build sustainability around that program so you don't have to get rid of them. I know Colton Joint and others have very big, robust programs and are thinking about this right now. So get them a certified wellness coach. Please do that. That's a really good idea. So, okay, so I wanted to show a couple of things in the platform quick, and just think about, how we've designed it to be intuitive. I don't know how many of you have used an EHR in the past, but they're generally not very intuitive. And so we've designed this to be kind of a, beautiful interface, very visually appealing and kind of almost consumer centric in nature in terms of the look and feel of the platform. As we talk about SIS integrations, the reason it's so important is because you have thousands of students, tens of thousands at some of your schools, at a minimum hundreds at your or 100 at your charter maybe. But you don't want to enter all their information into our system just to get it in there. You certainly don't want to define relational data between the caretaker and so forth. You just want it to all be there. And when a student walks in, when you're handling a crisis, you want their information to be here in the system. You want to be able to look them up and just find them. And then you want to see whether or not they have consent. So we have a stoplight system within our system. And in Aries, for example, if they have a profile picture, or any system, any SIS where they have a profile picture, we can pull that into to identify for the practitioner to help identify the student. They're with the right student. But you can start right here and you can just, find the student. The traffic light system, yellow means you can see them. They just are missing insurance information. Red means they don't have consent on file. Green means they have everything. So a student, for example, that doesn't have consent on file, I go to check that student in. It says, oh, consent form required. And you can obtain consent. Either it's minor consent or you send it to the parent. And once you have that, then you can start the visit. With a yellow, you can start the visit right away. And so just logging in here, it's a very simple, intuitive interface. But the thing that's interesting is when you check the student in. So let's say I'm a school counselor and I don't want to be on my computer or tablet all the time. I'm going around to different school sites and such. I could just have a tablet where I check them in. I've confirmed consent. And then let's say I took all the notes on my on paper and pen. And so what I want to do is I just want to add that into my system here. Quick and easy. I took it on paper and pen and I added in here. It has character recognition, so it can actually turn this into the actual text note and you're good to go. So saving that there, and then I could end session on my visit. I can also add assessments in here. So if I'm with a student and I have an assessment that I like to do, I can add an assessment. The traffic light system applies here as well. And this is all example data. It's not a real assessment, but the traffic light system shows that if I've added an assessment or a service, but I haven't completed that assessment or service, I can't end the encounter. And so I can go through and I can do assessments. all kinds of different things, custom forms, all kinds of things. I can end the session there. And then I can also, with my students, one of the nice features that we've added in here is you can design care plans. So this is more of a clinical function, but creating a care plan that defines goals and objectives over time, problems, goals, objectives, defines frequency. So if you want to meet with a student weekly for 6 visits, you can have all those mapped out here. You can add your assessments and your services into each of those visits, and then you map out a really nice care plan. So again, it's just supposed to be super intuitive. You can schedule appointments here. You can see the history of the student, everything you've done. You can see an overview of any action items or care journeys. I wanted to show a couple of other interesting things in our dashboard. One of the things that I talked about was the ability to give a classroom presentation. And so within our system, we have the ability to create groups. The cool thing about groups is that within the groups, you're only adding those people to the group that have consent. So let's say you go into a classroom, you select and filter by the classroom here, and you want to create a group for that classroom. The counselor is going to present to the entire class. You're not going to pull some kid into the hallway because they don't have consent to bill on file, but you're not going to create a claim for that student. So you add the students to the group. You can name it, whatever you want, class, room, B. You can create the group, and then you have all of your groups in this section here. And I can go back into classroom B, and I could start this visit for the entire group at a time, and that would add the service to all of them. And so we have that. We have the service management tab where you can add services. One thing that's interesting within services is the ability to do service bundles. So from a district perspective, we may have counselors that or clinicians at a wellness center that do the same 3 things every time they have a walk-in, this assessment and this assessment and this service. And so with service bundles, you can kind of add these things in, you can create a bundle, and you could say, this is Wellness Center C walk-in. And then every time there's a walk-in for Wellness Center C, you could just do that. You have all the services with the codes already defined, and it's quick and it's easy. You can do favorites and custom forms and all kinds of cool stuff. We also obviously have supervision, so you can see all your visits. You can sign off and approve these visits in batch or one at a time. But the general idea behind me showing you here is just to give you a look and feel and flow that you can see it's simple and intuitive, and very capable in terms of capable clinical utility, and then simplicity for those that are just doing 1 or 2 services within your school districts. So again, this is not a training. Our training will be much more comprehensive and in-depth, but I wanted you to get a general sense of the intuitive look and feel and flow of the system so that when you're using it, it's going to be simple for you and your practitioners, easy to use, and that it's integrated into the student information system to find the students, not have to duplicate entry things and to document those encounters. I know we're really close and running up on time. There's a ton more I could show you, but I do want to answer any other questions or anything that you may have.
So we have a couple in the form. So when and if SBCSS stops funding Healthy Campus for LEAs at some point, what is the pricing structure to continue with these services?
Yeah, great question. So right now with SBCSS, and I think one of the primary reasons for this meeting is to show you who we are and what we do and to get an idea who all is going to be a part of this thing. That is going to help us formalize this contract that we're really excited to be a part of. And when we formalize that contract, we're going to lay that all out, and we'll be able to say, hey, this is what the county's doing, this is what you're doing after that time, and we can give you this is what it will be, and this is what it is, and for how long a period of time. So, and we can take individual meetings. We have the capacity and the bandwidth to meet with all of you individually, and we have a great account management team, and we can go through your specific requirements in terms of customizations and forms and training and your unique dynamics of programs at your district. We'll go through your student population, practitioners, and then costs and all that kind of stuff. So you have a great idea, and exactly what it is. I do know that the county is funding the entire implementation and integration, which includes training and getting you going for a pretty significant amount of time and everything. So I think what they're doing to get you all jump started on this is amazing. And we'll have clear definition, hopefully with all of you participating in this and excited to go forward.
Thanks, Thomas. So the next question is regarding the consent forms. Is it sent to parents electronically and can they sign electronically? And is it sent to the email that is found in the SIS?
Yes. So when consent is sent through our system, it uses the guardian relational data. So whoever the student is, and this is based on minor consent laws and who can consent and those kinds of things. And then they get a notification to the email that's on file. They click that and it goes to our system. And on our system, they can do they can fill it out, they can do electronic signatures, all that kind of stuff. A lot of families, not a lot, but there are families that don't have access to electronics and that kind of thing. And so our system also has the ability for the practitioner to print any required consent forms, to hand those to the student. They can take them home, they can have them signed, they can bring them back, and our system will accept paper upload forms into the consent section as well.
And then we have one more question. Are you acting as a third-party vendor and uploading all the billing?
Are we? Yes, we are a third-party vendor. I don't know if I fully understood the question, but we are doing, so in terms of claims management, we are a full service, we call it revenue cycle management. So we take the claim from the time that that practitioner documents it and clicks end. We take it from that time and we create what's called an 837 file, which is the exact format that's needed of that claim. And we submit all of those claims through a direct connection into Carillon Behavioral Health so that they go in, and then we receive the response 835 file back, and then we manage all of those claims. And one of the things I didn't show here is how we manage them, but it's really cool. We use a lot of automation and AI, and we work every single claim to the penny for you. That means if they underpay you by a penny, we rework that claim. If they deny it, we rework that claim relentlessly and ruthlessly until the insurance companies pay you everything that you've earned. We use a lot of automation and advanced technology to do that, to simplify that for you. But we're very, very happy to be in terms of our historical success, one of the most highly paid out revenue cycle management companies out there. So we work that. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to hire anybody to manage this on your side. We do all of it for you.
And those are all the questions that we have in the form, and I think in the chat as well.
Great. Thanks again for your time. I know I said a lot. If you have any questions, we're going to put our emails here in the chat. If my team could put their email in, I'm going to go ahead and put mine here, and I'm happy to route it. Emily, who just put her email in the chat, is the expert on all things CYBHI. She attends all the meetings. She has direct contact with Carillon Behavioral Health leadership and their teams. She knows all your reps. She keeps her pulse on her finger on the pulse. So the EKC at healthycampus.com. If you have general questions about how the fee schedule works, what it means, things that you haven't heard on call, she may have a lot of that information. I'm always available for any questions. I can get you to the right person. Chris Carassi is your account manager, and he's joined by an account management team, and he'll be available if you have any specific questions on getting this going. And Lindsay Yang supports our implementation of insurance collection and the support of the families in general. So marketing, communication to the families, and those kinds of things. We're all happy to support in any way that you need. But feel free to send us an email. We'll be in touch with your county superintendent of schools as well, and coordinate the outreach efforts through them as well. So we'd love to work with you. Thanks again.
Thank you, Thomas. We have reached time, but before you guys log off, I just want to let you know that your point of contact will be reaching out. But if you're overzealous and ready to get started with Healthy Campus, you can call your point of contact. But we really are ready to move forward with getting your LEA set up. with this EHR. This is a great opportunity, and we just look forward to you all getting claim reimbursement. So thank you for your time.